welcome back to Shelf Center. This is Bryce. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thanks for liking and subscribing. This is something you end up enjoying. You never know, it could happen. Anyway, I wanted to jump into a review for Lies of Locke Lamora. This is a spoiler-free review of one of my favorite books. I've now reread this, so was my second read of all time, and I wanted to get into just some quick spoiler-free thoughts about the book. First of all, it's about lies. It's about Locke Lamora and his lies. He is a con man. This is book one in The Gentleman Bastard. So he's a con man. What this book does is it goes back and forth between the present day of the time, of course, and then the past when Locke is pretty young to kind of a teenager. So it kind of goes back and forth the whole time and takes place on the island city of Camor. So there's lots of mysteries. The first book that I had that I lent to a friend and never got back, but I'm happy to do it. It's worth it. It had a really cool cover, and maybe I could throw it up, of one of the glass like castles. So there's some kind of like minor magics for the most part here in kind of this almost like older kind of part of the city, almost like the Ogier like built parts of the Wheel of Time in the world of the Wheel of Time, where it's like, but it's more mysterious because we don't even really know who actually built these things. There's also other kinds of magics that we get into, but I don't want to get too much into spoilers, as I said, so I won't get into there. But for the most part, Locke Lamora is a precocious kid, to say the least. It starts out as rough upbringing as essentially an orphan, and kind of his plans are bigger than his britches. It starts to try to kind of, first of all, introduce us to his current game that's going on there. Where he's trying to essentially get a healthy amount of money from a noble. And as we start to learn very early in the book, the nobles are kind of off limits. There's this off limits part to any of the crime and anything involved in Camor. And you'll see that Locke doesn't necessarily care about that. So Locke ends up with this kind of, as a kid, he ends up kind of with this street gang who is, again, all about lies, right? I love the alliterative title here. It's so great. And they're running game. They're running constant games and tricking people constantly and for money, and they kind of dedicate it to their god, right? And who's like the unnamed god that no one really knows about. We learn a lot of secrets, and I don't want to get into the exact secrets that you start to learn, but it's pretty fun. But again, Locke early on almost gets himself killed because his plans are just crazy, and he's immediately just scheming, stealing everything, and it's so hard not to root for him. With Locke, there's in his Gentleman Bastards coterie, I don't know what to call it. You've got Jean, that might be a good one for a mispronouncing fantasy names segment, but you've got Jean Tannen, you've got Kahlo and Galdo, the twins, Father Chains, and this kind of just, they start just these bigger, like, they can really take advantage of the scheming of Locke himself. And so, and so you kind of get this backstory along with what he's doing now. And what he's doing now is he gets embroiled in, again, he's running this game against a nobleman, but at the same time, there's an evil kind of lurking throughout Camor that's slowly kind of taken apart the rival gangs, the rival criminal under the syndicates, whatever you want to call them, and it's kind of slowly taking them apart and taking them down. And so that's all happening while you've got this game going on. Things just start to complicate. It's a huge just rolling ball of an avalanche that it turns into. And it's so impressive. One of the things I do hear that people dislike about this book is those flashbacks. Especially on reread, I love them. I thought they were great. They're perfect. They really do a good job of cluing you into his character, into just all the characters, and where his Locke's best friend Jean is he's like, they hate each other at first, and they're knocking heads. They're constantly at each other, and so, or at least Locke hates John, I should say, and so you start out, you have this constant, like, as soon as things are getting exciting in the present day, then you do get a flashback. I've always found especially parts in a good book where you're just like dying to get back to the main story, these kind of anticipation, right? This anticipation is always a good thing, actually. It really does help the reading experience because you definitely appreciate that time that you're loving all that much more. On top of it, it typically will set up something for the later on, or for the next section in the present day. And so you learn something about his character as a kid, and then he kind of displays it in the present day. And I really like that, especially you appreciate it, I feel like, on a reread when you're going, man, Scott Lynch as an author had to know these characters very well to be able to do what he did. And so he knew them extremely well to be able to not only have the past but the present versions of them and going back and forth, and to be able to establish those things. So that's impressive itself. Quick spoiler here I wanted to get into because I really thought it was cool. So I'll list that when to go to. But big spoiler, kind of a big spoiler. I felt like, but I'm not going to get into the actual details, but one of the setups kind of early on in the flashbacks actually set something up for the very end, and it was really cool. So I just felt like the payoff was so good in that I just was very impressed. And again, even more so appreciated that setup from doing a flashback. Anyway, spoiler over. Overall, I cannot recommend this book enough. Some of the quotes are just excellent. There's no freedom quite like the freedom of being constantly underestimated. That's fair. That's fair. And there's a lot of like prestige type. I love this prestige, both the book and the movie. Christopher Priest doesn't love the movie though. But the prestige is great because I love that idea of like committing so much to something, like one of the acts with like the fishbowl, right? The guy is just so committed to looking old and frail that you don't realize what is actually going on is that he's faking everything in his life, really. This kind of thing of, you can get people to underestimate you. You can get a whole lot away with a whole lot. Time's a river, Locke, and we've always drifted further down it than we think. I love that quote. It's so true. You get to a point you're like, whoa, how am I already almost 40? Like, where did the time go? I still think of myself as a teenager sometimes. Sometimes then I talk to teenagers. And so if you like, some mystery, low magic, but definitely magic, a con, like an Ocean's 11 type of book with excellent characters. I cannot stress how good the writing is and the quotes. I could keep going there. There's so many great quotes. There's just such a good twist in here, and honestly, like a couple of good twists, and just excellently, really well done. I cannot wait to read more. I've heard mixed bag on the rest that have been out, but I am still excited to read more in the Gentleman Bastard series, which I think is just one of the best named series ever. So anyway, well done, Scott Lynch. Cannot wait to read more. Lies of Locke, Lamora, 10 out of 10. Easy. This is in my 10 out of 10, no question grouping. Just one of my all-time faves. Anyway, if this is something you please like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for stopping by, and we will catch you later. Bye.